Hi, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about surface area of cylinders. We're going to be investigating and problem solving to figure out how we can determine what the total surface area of a cylinder would be. Well, before we begin talking about a cylinder, let's review what the parts of a circle are and how we can figure out the area of a circle and the circumference of a circle. If you remember from previous lessons, the area of a circle or the area of anything covers up the whole area of it, the surface of it. So this would be an example of finding the area where the entire circle is colored in. And our formula for finding that will be pi r squared. So we're going to take the radius, square it, and multiply that by pi. Now, circumference of a circle is when we find the outside area, the outside measurement of a circle, kind of like finding the perimeter of something if we were to build a fence around it. So circumference goes around, just like this shows, it's going around the outside edge of the circle. And the formula for finding circumference of a circle is 2 pi r. Okay? You might have seen it in the past where it's pi d, pi times the diameter. Well, 2 pi r, remember that two radiuses make one diameter. So this is just a different formula to find the circumference of a circle. And since we're using radius in the area, it's just easy to use circumference with the same format. Go ahead and pause the video and copy this information into your flipbook. All right, well, let's talk about what surface area is. So it sounds like, it is exactly what it sounds like. We're covering the entire surface of whatever circular tube thing that we are trying to measure, whether it's a soup can, whether it's a straw, whether it's a water bottle, a water tower, anything that can be circular in shape, cylinder in shape. So surface area is the total amount. It's the total amount of space that's covering a three-dimensional object. So what you need to do is you need to find the areas of the bases and the area of the rectangular region, that's the middle part, um, and you're going to put those together. Now remember, the rectangular region is based off of the circumference. So this line right here would wraps around our circle. So it wraps around it. So that's our circumference. That's the circumference of whatever the circle is. So we're going to find the area of these two bases. So here's a base and here's a base. And then here's our rectangular region, our middle part. And we would want to find all those and add them together to figure out what the total surface area is. Go ahead, pause the video, and copy this information into your flipbook. All right, well, let's figure out what the formula is. Let's say that we had a soup can and we needed to figure out how much it would cost or how much material we need to cover the can to make it look the way we want to present it. So we would have to find the label that would go around our middle piece, and we would probably want to paint the top and the bottom bases. So what we would do is we're going to add the area, we're going to add the area of the two circular bases. So remember, here's a base, and at the bottom we have another base down there. We're going to add the area of the two circular bases, and the area of the base is 2 pi r squared. Okay, and then we're going to add that with the area of the middle region. So that would be where we're going to put our soup can label. And if you remember, that would be the circumference of the circle times the height. So we have 2 pi r times our height. So the 2 pi r, again, is the circle. It's the circumference that goes around the base like this. And then our height is always given, whatever it is, from one base to the other base. So we could put that together to be 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h, or we could call it base times 2 pi r h. Most likely you're going to see it in this format that they showed down below, right here, that it's 2 pi r squared, which is the area of the top and the bottom circles, plus the area of the middle, which is our 2 pi r h. And remember, because it's commutative property, we can multiply in any order and still get the same answer. Go ahead and pause the video to copy this information into your flipbook. All right, wonderful. Let's go ahead and try some practice work now. Here we have a cylinder that is in the form of, with a height, right here we have a height of 4 and a radius of 2, and we want to find the total surface area. So remember, here we have our formula. The area, the total surface area is 2 pi r squared plus the middle region, which is 2 pi r h. So if we use that formula and we plug in the information that we're given from our diagram, we would see that we have 2 pi r squared, and the radius is 2, plus 2 pi r, which is 2 again, times our height, which is 4. So I'd like for you to go ahead and figure out what would that information be. What would the next line be when you simplify it? What would those two values be? Well, if you worked your calculator, using your calculator, you would find that you would have 2 pi times 4, because that's your radius squared, plus your 2 pi times, this is your radius times your height, which is 8. And then those are the two values you would end up with. Now go ahead and add those two values together, and then don't forget to add your units. All right, so then your total value then should be 75.36 centimeters squared. And usually you're going to round to the nearest tenths or hundredths place if you have decimal values. Go ahead, pause the video, and copy this into your flipbook now. Wonderful. Well, let's do another example. Let's practice this one together. So I'd like for you to practice along with me if you can. Here we have a new cylinder, and we want to find the total surface area. So SA stands for surface area. And we are given this part right here, and since it only goes halfway across the top of our circle, we know that that's our radius. And then the part that goes from the two bases, that would be our height value. So our formula again is 2 pi r squared, and this is for our bases. We're going to multiply by 2 because we have two bases. And then we have our middle region, which would be 2 pi r, which is the circumference of our circle, times the height, which is the space between the two bases. So that would be our formula. And we want to plug in the values that they gave us into our formula to figure out what the value would be. So in our first one, here we go, we're going to plug it in, and we would find that we have 2 pi times 7 squared, and 7 is our radius, plus we have 2 pi 7, again our radius, times our height value, which in this case is 14. So go ahead, and I want you to simplify this information and find what those two area parts would be. By using your calculator, you should have determined that you have 2 pi times 49, that's 7 squared, plus 2 pi 98, which is our radius times our height. And then your two parts are 307.72 plus 615.44, which is our middle region. Now combine those two parts to find your total surface area. And if you did that, you should have gotten that your total surface area is 923.16 inches squared, because we're talking about area. Very good. All right, we have another example. Here we have another cylinder, and in this case we have a radius of 3, so they gave us a radius and not a diameter, so that's nice. We didn't have to divide anything, and our height is 5. So again, the area for surface area of a cylinder is going to be 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h. Now remember, you do have your formula sheet and you will always have access to your formula sheet. So this is not a formula that you have to memorize, but the more you write it, the more familiar you become with it, and then the quicker you may go through solving these problems. And then it'll make more sense to you. All right, well, let's use this information. Let's use our formula and the information given to us in our diagram to fill in the missing parts. So by filling in, replacing the values in our formula, you find that you have 2 pi 3 squared, and 3 is our radius given to us in our diagram. Plus, we're going to add the middle region, which is 2 pi radius, which is 3, and our height value, which is 5. Go ahead with your calculator and simplify it even further. And then you should have gotten this information. You should have 2 pi 9 because 3 squared is 9 plus 2 pi 15, that's our radius times our height. And when we simplify our first part, our circular bases, we get 56.52 and the middle region is 94.2. And when we combine those two to find our total surface area, we would get that combined, they make 150.72. Now in this case, you notice that I put units squared, and the reason I put units squared is because they didn't give us any units. They just simply said 5 and 3. But we know, since we're talking about area, that we are doing so in squared units. So I just went ahead and put units squared down in my final answer. If I were to put 150.72 down and squared that would be a completely wrong answer, because that would mean by order of operations that we should square this number 150.72, and we're not doing that. We are just squaring our units, which are like if we took little cubes and covered up all around our shape, that's what we'd be doing. So don't make the mistake of putting the squared version next to your numbers. Make sure it's always next to your units. All right, well, now we're going to do the Your Turn page. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry. So on the Your Turn page, you are going to copy these two cylinders down in your notebook, and I would like for you to find the total surface area for each one. In the first case, you have a radius. In the second case, you have a diameter. So make sure you understand the difference between those two cylinders. I would like for you to find the total surface area showing all of your work and bring that with you to class. We'll discuss any questions you have with you tomorrow. Thank you. Have a good night.